Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Career Journeys, where we tell stories that inspire. Thank you for joining us this afternoon, morning, evening. And with me today, I have a phenomenal guest. She was here with us on in season one, and she's back because she has so much more to tell. And I so look forward to this interview. Please welcome with me today, Dami Ogele. Welcome,
Hi,
Dami.
thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, and I love being able to have a conversation and chat with this community that you're building.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you for being so gracious. You are such a brilliant woman. I enjoy my conversations with you. So we'll jump right in. And the first question I have for you here is for you to tell us a little bit about your background so far, your career background so far.
Okay, so I'll give you the quick, maybe 1.5 minute, 2 minute version, and then if you have any questions, obviously I'm happy to go deeper into any particular part. Currently, I work in um, product management at Google. So I'll go reverse chronological order. I've been at Google for a little over 2 years now, and I work on products that help Google identify and reach customers when they have regulatory issues that might be affecting them. So it's a very interesting niche space, and fundamentally, I develop things that seem like marketing technology, but are deployed in political advocacy. Interesting. Before I
Very
took
interesting.
this role, before this, I'd been at Amazon for almost 5 years. And at Amazon, I worked on two big projects. I spent almost 4 years working on drone technology, on helping that team figure out how to um, how to understand when the fleet of drones are airworthy and how that might impact the operations of drone delivery. Huge project, loved working on it. And then I spent the rest of my time working on Amazon Fresh, which is the grocery stores and Whole Foods. So helping them build search, the online search that you use in the physical store. So think about using your mobile app while you're shopping in the store and all of the different features that go into that. So the search page, the detail pages, and there's kiosks that you might see in the physical store at Fresh, depending if you shop in Amazon Fresh store, you see the digital labels, you see a bunch of like digital advertising things and things that allow you to shop and extend selection while you're in the store. So those are products that I built and worked on, and some of them launched into market before I left the team. That's my history now in product management and in tech. Before I got into tech, I mostly did sales, finance, and marketing related work. So I started off my career after college actually as a wealth management advisor, initially selling insurance, and then tacked on investment products onto that, and then sort of started to build my portfolio. In that way, went back to business school, purely a business person, if you can think about like this transition, right? So went back to business school, started working with different companies on strategy. And so I went to Sears Holdings and I was helping them think about their turnaround. Um, Sears was struggling. Spoiler, they went bankrupt, or not quite a spoiler eventually. But I was part of the very small team that they had initially brought in to help them think through their turnaround. It was a hard company to turn around. And then from there, that's when I got, if you would call, got recruited into Amazon because their drone team was just getting productized and they wanted some business minds to come help them think through some of the like high level challenging questions. Where should we deliver? What should we deliver? What kinds of packages might we want to send to customers? Can we deploy this technology in a way that makes sense for Amazon, which is fundamentally really a very like business led company. And that was really my initial like entry into tech. So that's my background. I'm happy to, talk more about any particular area for
Wow.
sure.
Such an exciting journey so far, from business to being a woman in tech. Could
Mhm.
you have imagined, let's say 10 years ago, that you'd be here today?
Absolutely not. If I reflect on 10 years ago, 10 years ago I was getting ready to start business school, and I was very clear about what I wanted to do, which was I wanted to do strategy and I wanted to work on big business problems. Um and it's still true today. Tech is a lot more kind of, at least when you're at the levels that I'm in, it's super deep and a little bit less broad. And so when you're working on something, that's all you think about all day. And I was like, well, I just want to work on the most challenging high level business problems. So I want to do strategy, and I'm going to be bored. So I want to do things. I wanted to do consulting, for example. So I was like, I just want to work on something different every few months. I could not have imagined. I didn't even know anybody that was recruiting for tech who didn't have a degree in computer science.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That didn't seem like a path that really made
Mhm.
sense or was even in scope for me at all.
Yeah.
But I love it. I can't, I mean, I've done a lot of different business functions now. Like I said, sales,
Mhm.
wealth management, marketing, finance, now product. And this is the best fit I have found so far. So
Wow.
I think this is
Amazing.
my near, at least near to mid, maybe even long-term future.
Wow. As someone in tech who started off in tech, that's music to my ears. Welcome to the bright side.
It's nice over here. It's nice over here.
Now, so what's helped you to remain, to be so nimble? Like, what do you think? Are there qualities you've always had, or things you've just, you know, picked up along the way?
Yeah, I think so if I part of this will probably seem very obvious, but I would say just thirst for knowledge. I've definitely always been a very curious person. My twin sister and I were the kids that, like, we were always reading. We read all the time. We would try to skip bedtime and go into the bathroom and like read on the bathroom floor because we knew my dad wouldn't drag us out of the bathroom. You
Wow.
know, we like read cereal boxes while we were reading. We read the entire, there was this book called how I forget the exact name, but it was basically where there is no doctor. I read that thing from cover to cover. It's like this encyclopedia type book about medical advancements in Africa and how you do. So, long story short, I read just a deep information consumer, and I think that's definitely helped. I would say thanks, Grandma, for for that work. So being I think the key part of being able to be nimble and try different things comes down to being willing to learn new things. I think the second thing is um, I'm good at learning, and I part of that is, there's the nature versus nurture piece.
Okay.
I thank God for that. I think that's just like a skill, but it's a skill that can be learned. For sure, is how do you sort of take big amounts of information and quickly distill that, and what are your own ways of reminding yourself about things and recollection. And I think that definitely helps with getting up to speed in new places. And I want to say networking
Hmm.
for sure has also been super helpful in all of my transitions. People have played a huge role in helping me, one, know what else is out there, because you can't reach for what you don't even know about.
True.
So, like, what else is out there? What else might I enjoy doing? Just networking and having good people in my, so being surrounded by good people has helped me see what's possible.
Mhm.
And when there's a skill gap that the people that are there know. So I'm just like, oh, can you spend an hour with me? Can you spend 2 hours? And the more you do that, the better you become at it. I've just gotten really comfortable being uncomfortable.
Mm.
And I think that's the key, because you go from being an expert anytime you switch jobs, anytime you
Yeah.
take on a new role,
Mm-hmm.
you were the expert and people called you. And now in the new role, you're asking about real basic things. So it's like, you just got to be willing to be humble
Mm.
and show up in a meeting and not be the person with the answers. I'm
Yeah.
doing it again right now as I come back from maternity leave. I'm like,
Mm.
I don't know anything about these new projects. So who can I talk to? Let's schedule meetings with them. And after the first meeting, let them know, hey, I want to just let you know I'm new here. I'd
Mm-hmm.
like to put on a weekly cadence. What can I do to also make this time valuable for you?
Yeah.
Because people are really taking time out of their day to help bring you up to speed and try to think about what that value of exchange might be. So a very long-winded answer. I apologize for that, but if I had to boil it down, it's, one of the things that help me are just the thirst for knowledge. I think I'm naturally good at learning new things, and that's helped, but I do think it's a skill, and networking is super, super important,
Mm.
um, with transitioning and finding new spaces to play in.
Oh, wow. So, how do you make networking fun? I know many people dread it. They hear the
Yeah,
word and it feels like so much work. But you do it so naturally. It sounds.
yeah,
How do you do that? How do you take the chore out of it and make it a natural
yeah.
part of your life?
I'd be curious to hear what you think about this too. But for me, the biggest part is like, I mean, I say when I'm talking formally, I'll call it networking, but truly in my life, it's just building relationships. It's just meeting people and thinking not only about what you can get, because I think that's what makes it awkward when you're like, oh, well, what can I get from this person? Then it's real awkward because you got to ask and you haven't built a relationship, so you feel weird and icky. But if you flip that and think, well, what do we connect on? What
Yeah.
could I add to this person?
Mhm.
It just makes it a lot more organic and a lot less scary. And then building relationships before you think you need them. And
Mhm.
and depositing into those relationships before you think you need them. It's not when you're like, oh, well, now I need a job at LinkedIn.
Mhm.
Let me go see who works there. That's not like
Yeah.
that's useful, but
Mhm.
what about just
Building
grabbing
relation.
coffee with them anyway,
Yeah.
randomly?
Yeah.
I think that's what makes it more organic. So it's not as scary as it's only scary if you think about it as a relationship you want to take from versus a place you
Mhm.
want to deposit in.
Yeah, yeah. I totally agree. I feel the same way too. I feel like we should always be building relationships and adding value to relationships. And in order to do that, I feel we need to become more and more valuable ourselves, right?
Mm,
So that anytime people hang around us, we have something to add to them. That way it may not even be that person that's going to um, open the door for you or
right.
make that connection, but it may be someone that person knows that will end
Yeah.
up being valuable to you. So I truly believe in growing in value as a person so that relationships are more fun and people like to hang around you. So that I like you said, it's about relationships, not
Yeah.
because of what you want to get from those relationships,
Yeah.
but what you're able to give, and then getting becomes just part of the process,
It's just
right?
part of the
That it
process.
happens naturally. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, for me, that's what, even I mean, as I've committed to that process, I've not necessarily thought of it as networking, but looking back, I've come to realize that it's actually been network.
That is
Yeah,
networking.
yeah,
Yeah.
so,
The
yeah,
word can get a stink on it.
yeah.
But especially when we start getting into your network is your net worth, which
Oops,
is still true,
it
which is
is
still
true, but you
true.
don't want to see people as dollar signs, right? Like,
Yeah. Yeah,
you want to
absolutely.
see people as people, and
Absolutely.
you want to meet new people just to get to know them.
just to get to, there's so many cool people, and people have done so much cool stuff. And it's such a privilege to just get to know, to have as many friends as possible and just do things. Like, it doesn't even have to be professional. The
Mm-hmm.
professional will end up getting there, but it's what a wonderful privilege to just like be a person in this, you know, in the life that we live, with so much access to tons of fun, interesting things to connect on. I just
Yes,
enjoy it.
yes, yes. You know, someone said, I like to say this. I heard this a while back, and I say it quite a lot. You may have heard me say it before. I wouldn't be surprised. You know, someone said, I don't like that lady. I need to get to know her better. Right?
Mm,
It's like when we get to know people, there's just people are just so interesting, so intriguing.
yeah, it's
You know,
true.
I was recently in the UK. I was serving a program there, and there's somebody I've seen from afar for many years, and I'd never gotten to know her. But on this trip, she was taking me around, and I'm like, at the end of the trip, I said, you are one of the highlights of this trip for me, getting to know you.
Mm,
And of course, as I got to know her, to know about her family and everything, also got to know about her profession and what she does and how technical what she does is. So, guess what? If I have a question or if I have a need that she can meet, she's somebody I can talk to now, right? But I didn't
right.
go there thinking, oh, I wonder how she can benefit my career, you know. But yeah, so interesting. So now let's talk about leadership. What has leadership been like? Your leadership journey been like, and what's it looking like? What's leadership looking like for you right now?
It's such a good question. So far in my career, I would say I've had some, the opportunities to lead have grown, and in some ways they've shrunk. So they've definitely morphed. When I first started my career, I was one of the top closers at the company that I was working on, and so that was an opportunity to lead, right? Whenever you're good at something, coaching and teaching other people on that particular lane presents a leadership opportunity. And I actually think that's one of the lowest hanging fruits for leadership when you're new in your career, because there's often something, even if you're straight out of college, there's like often something that you're uniquely good at. Like, you're good with data, and none of the managers know how to pull data because, well, they haven't done it in the last 15 years, or the ways that we do it have changed in the last 20 years. That's an opportunity to lead even when you're sort of like, newer and low, and I would say more junior.
Yeah.
So that was one of my first opportunities to lead. And then as I started to grow in my career, I started managing, initially dotted line report people that were dotted line reporting to me. And at that point, the response is a little bit bigger, right? Because then I'm not only thinking about my own career, but also theirs,
Mm.
and also thinking about, well, what kind of place do I want to work in, and what kind of place do they want to work in? Um, and I love that. I still want to be a people manager. A lot of people say, well, your job changes when you start managing people, and it's true. But I personally love the difficult parts of that job,
Yeah.
which I think is a question to ask yourself when you want to take a new job. Like, can I deal with the things that are hard about this? And if the answer is yes, then it's probably a good job for you.
Mm.
Um, when I switched into product management from finance, that was something I had to rethink, because product management is, and I think also many jobs are a lot more flat. So as a PM, leadership looks very different. There's, for example, I report into the director of product management at my team, and she doesn't have a big team. I mean, she's a director at a big tech company,
Yeah.
and she doesn't have hundreds of people reporting into her, which would be the case in many other job functions.
Wow.
But in product, leadership looks like influencing without authority most of the time. And that's why I said in some ways it's grown. Like, I went from, okay, well, now I'm building my skills as a people manager, and I still express that that's something I want to do when that opportunity comes back around. But it doesn't happen as frequently in a product management role. That's just part of the part of the job. But your job is to get something ideation into market. And oftentimes doing that requires working with tons of different people at all different levels. Whether it's I mean, the times a software product, even if it's a hardware product, like you're launching an iPhone, which is unlikely. You would probably be launching a small components of something in that. But your job is really to get something into market, working with people who do not report into you. I think that is one of the hardest. This is one of the hardest types of leadership, because in many of those areas, you're not going to be the SME. You're not going to be the subject matter expert. So you have to, and I have had to earn trust with people who know more than me, and still say, I need you to do X, knowing that they're actually the experts.
Wow.
That can be so challenging, and it's a different type of leadership. And I say, as a product manager now, for me, leadership also looks like helping build morale. Our leadership, your VPs and your SVPs, will sometimes ask for things that are really challenging for a team to deliver. And helping the team understand the broader purpose and stay motivated to timelines and deadlines that, quite frankly, sometimes feel arbitrary. And still stay, relatively happy and like, all right, I need us to push to get this done. Can we? Knowing that I can't do their job. I'm not a coder. Is a different type of leadership that's like uniquely challenging, but absolutely the season that I'm in right now.
Yeah. So what skills make that possible for you, to do that successfully?
I think the first one is you gotta be willing to understand where people are coming from. Acknowledging that, for example, I will never like if I'll take let's just take two people that are necessary to maybe take a product out. My software engineers and my marketers. I will never be the expert about place or promotion or the price or the when to launch or the best time to launch. That's not my job. And understanding that, I think, is the first part of being able to work with an expert. Like I will never be the person that will say,